Let's talk about V-flats. Mouth closed, hands down, action.
It's like a loop machine.
So a couple years back, all the internet was abuzz about V-flats. If you were a photographer, you needed a V-flat. You saw Instagram posts constantly about these V-flats. They're amazing for modifying light. They diffuse them. You put them on the corner, you tilt them this way, you tilt them that way, you bounce this, you deflect that, you do all kinds of stuff. So naturally,
I needed a V-flat.
So somehow, everyone on the internet had these V-flats. But when you Googled V-flats, you couldn't find a damn one anywhere. No one sold them. We looked online, we found some gator board. There was two problems with that. The gator board only came in one color on both sides, and the price was ridiculous, ridiculously priced.
So expensive.
So naturally, we did what any frugal photographer would do, and we DIY'd that shit. We ran down to our local hardware store, and we bought the next best thing to gator board. These were these giant foam insulation boards. One side was silver and the other side had this shiny plastic stuff on it. So we brought them back to the studio, we ripped the reflective surface off and the shiny side, and then we used gaff tape to make a weird hinge, and we have it in our studio to this day. In this video, I want to compare our DIY V-flat to a V-flat that we got from V-Flat World. So when I was at Imaging USA, I met the owner and founder of V-Flat World, Tubby Lemberg, and he offered to let me borrow a V-flat so I can come back to the studio and compare it to my DIY one. Now, as I was walking out of the showroom floor, I had about 5 photographers, and I'm not exaggerating, 5 photographers approached me and asked me if I just bought this V-flat from the V-Flat World booth. Instantly, without asking, they all started to go into their own DIY solutions on how I can just make my own.
You know, if you take a little gaff tape and you run it along the seams, and you take some cardboard and you paint one side white, and you take black paint and you squirt it all over the place, and then you roll around on it naked, that's an amazing V-flat.
Even when I told them that I already had my own DIY V-flat and I was excited about this new V-flat, a professionally made one from V-Flat World, they continued to tell me how amazing their DIY V-flat was.
So let me tell you how I made my V-flat. I went down to the local feed store and I bought myself a chicken coop. And then I had chickens run around in it. Once they laid eggs, I crushed them and I mixed that crushed eggs with Elmer's glue. And then I took the Elmer's glue and I ate a little bit of it. And then when I was done, I pooped out a V-flat.
So I thought it would be best to come back and do an actual review of the two and tell you the pros and cons of each. So before we get started, some of the things you should know about a V-flat is maybe the usage. V-flats are great for bouncing light. They're great for blocking light. They're great for a negative fill. They also work well as a white background. If you have the V-flats from V-Flat World, they also work well as a black background. And I also learned a trick from Jeff Carpenter from Ready Light Media that 2 V-flats stood next to each other make a really quick makeshift changing room. Thanks for the tip. So here's some of the pros to a DIY V-flat. Number 1, it's dirt cheap. 20 bucks a panel, $40, you can get away with a very massive, very tall V-flat. I think our DIY V-flat clocks in at 12 feet by 4 feet each panel. So you have a pretty big V-flat. The other pro is that it actually bounces light. It does a really good job at bouncing light, and since it's a little bit bigger, it does cover a lot more room, and you get a little bit more control. And now the cons of the DIY V-flat, which are pretty extensive. The first con is that both sides are white, so you don't have the ability to have any negative fill. One of the major cons, which took us a while to figure out, is that it actually doesn't block light. I was trying to figure out why I had so much spill from the light that I was trying to block behind it and mask off. And then I finally turned my camera on the V-flat and took a picture, and I could see my strobe right through the V-flat. That's not good at all.
Side note, it took us 3 years to figure that out.
As many photographers know, we're in the image business. So we have to provide our clients with an experience. And one of the downsides to a DIY V-flat is it looks like a DIY V-flat. It doesn't look professional at all. It's sort of like the one time that I did a portrait session at these people's house and I bought a white sheet from Walmart. I asked someone to stand over in front of my backdrop and the mom goes, "Go ahead, sweetie, go stand next to that bed sheet." And then the biggest issue with our DIY V-flat is that it's really stuck at our studio. It's so big and massive that it doesn't fit in any of our cars. So it's not portable at all. Now on to the V-flats from V-flat World. Right out the gate, the V-flat World has a lot more pros than cons. One of the pros is that it's portable. It even comes with a portable carrying case because the V-flat actually folds down. The V-flats from V-flat World are actually constructed of 4 evenly square panels that are taped together in the middle, with 3 Velcro strips along the center top half so that it has more portability. Another pro is that it has both a white and a black side, so you get both the bounce and negative fill. One of the biggest pros is that it allows you to have more setups. Because of the way that it's constructed, it really allows you to position this V-flat in different poses. I've seen people use them in all different ways, including a table.
Yeah, it's true. You fold down the 2 flaps and then you put it over your model's lap and it looks like a fucking table.
And last but not least, it looks professional. It doesn't look like you ran down to your local hardware store and grabbed the first material you saw and slapped a bunch of gaff tape on it. These things really look professional. Now on to the cons.
Because there's a few cons.
One of the cons is that it's still made out of foam, so it is dentable and you will get some scratches on it or some dents on the side. Another con is that I live in Florida, which means the humidity is insane. And if you leave one of these bad boys in your car, the tape doesn't like it too much. The other issue is that because it is paper and foam, or cardboard and foam, it is stainable. So if you're doing a photo shoot that has anything splashing around, these V-flats are gonna be a little bit in danger of being damaged because of that stuff. And last but not least is the price. I think for all the things that the V-flat offers, if they're gonna stay in your studio, they will last a lot longer, so the price is a little bit acceptable. Obviously, the biggest hurdle that V-flat World has to overcome is the price difference. But in all honesty, if I were to break down all the money that I've spent on my DIY V-flat, I would have spent more money on my DIY repairing it and trying to get it to do all the things that I want it to do, when time is money and I could just buy one from V-flat World and be done with it and look more professional. Now, just to brag a little bit about V-flat World, who did not sponsor this video, by the way. When I spoke with Tubby, he told me about how they're constantly trying to improve their product. He's always looking for new ways, and he was very receptive to feedback when people came up to him. What Tubby did in this space is he created a product that filled a need. And when I was searching for V-flats, $200 may have been a little expensive, but after years of dealing with my DIY V-flat, I probably would have bit the bullet and jumped on board with these if they were available sooner. I'm really excited for companies like V-flat World innovating in the photography space. Ultimately, our industry is full of these big conglomerate companies that like to throw a bunch of gear at us that we don't need. And it's refreshing to see a company come along like V-flat World to offer a simple solution. And you know it's a great solution when you sit there and go,
That's so simple, I could have come up with that idea on my own.
but you didn't. He did. Take a look at V-flat World, follow them on Instagram, look at all the photographers that they support, and maybe, I don't know, stop being a cheap bastard and invest in your photography in your studio. That's an idea, right? You frugal bastards.
Oh, I could do this myself, watch.
Well, that's all I have to say about DIY V-flats and V-flat World. I'm not going to tell you to leave a comment below because you petty photographers are going to slide into my DM and tell me all about step by step how you made your own V-flat. Thanks, guys. Until next time, see you later.
It's like a loop machine.
You know, if you just go down to Sam Flax and you spend $80 on 2 pieces of foam core, or gator board it's called in the United States, you can make yourself your own V-flat.
Cool. What about the one side's only black and the other side's white?
Well, you can paint it, silly.